Hello and welcome to yet another video, and in this video I have a very special camera to share with you guys. It's this one right here. It's the Sony A100. Yes, it's been out for quite a while now, but it's been a camera that I personally really enjoy shooting with lately, and it's a camera that still has a really nice CCD sensor despite being a huge CMOS sensor fan. But the CCD sensor in here is a really nice CCD sensor, the one that you can actually get some very nostalgic look from, and also the one that you can actually experiment with and get really nice tones from. So yeah, this video is not going to be a full review video, it's just going to be my thoughts video on this particular camera if you're looking into getting this camera, and if you need a second or third opinion or what have you. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So the Sony A100. Now, if you've been following with DSLRs for a couple of decades now, or if you've been a huge fan of Konica Minolta as well, you will definitely notice the design language coming down from the Konica Minolta line of DSLRs into this particular camera. Now, of course, with Sony being Sony, they definitely put their own touches in here, but generally speaking, this is the camera that kept the most design language from Konica Minolta onto this body. And to be honest, it is a very fun camera to use. It's a very rugged feeling camera to use as well, but obviously it doesn't have very good weather sealing. It's actually lack thereof. And of course, the grip is already swollen from time, of course, but nonetheless, it's still a very comfortable camera to use. One that the A7 line of cameras can actually learn from. Anyway, this is not a full review video, it's only my thought video in case you're actually looking into getting this camera, because it is actually very affordable to get this camera nowadays. If you still want to get into, the old CCD look or the nostalgic digital look, you still can, because this is still within reach, unlike Fuji cameras, which of course they have their external sensors, but they're just getting more and more expensive on the second-hand side, but that's a video for a completely different day. But anyway, in this video, just as usual, just like in any of my other gear talk videos, I'll be dividing into three different sections. The first one is the operational side, the ergonomics of this camera, leading down into the image quality and then into the conclusion. Before I waste anyone's time, no, this camera does not record video. I get that like a lot, whether it's the 30D, 20D, whatever old cameras videos I make. Obviously those are very innocent questions, but after a while it does get a bit exhausting, like, hey, does this camera shoot video or not? It's too old to shoot video. Well, yeah. And even if it can, it would probably look really bad. Anyway, moving on into the first section, which is the ergonomics, the operational side of things. This camera is a really nice feeling camera. Yes, it does feel kind of plasticky, but everything just fits into your hands like gloves, which is great. Having such a basic camera also means a lot of these buttons are essential buttons that you can actually control, reach to your controls that you want. It is still a two-handed operational camera because the power button is right here, and a lot of the menu system buttons are actually right here as well, so you can't really operate it from one hand. The camera itself, despite feeling very plasticky but comfortable, but there are certain design language that I don't really get. For example, having this dial right in front of the shutter button. I would much prefer having this dial after the shutter button, because I kept on hitting this when I want to shoot images, and I missed a lot of images, well, a lot of shots, simply because I kept pressing this, because this is where your index finger naturally flows. But of course, Sony fixed that in their later models. It's just a little bit of nitpicking, but if I have to get it out, there is that. Another downside is the screen. Yes, it's a 2.5 inch. I think it's about 230,000 K resolution, but I've seen 2.5 inch screens that are much more detailed, even though with the same amount of dot, but much more detailed and much more accurate than this. If you just want to judge your frame, you can use this display, but if you want to judge your colors, do not use this display. The contrast is horrible. The dynamic range is horrible with this particular screen. So when I first got this camera for the first couple of days, I had to do a lot of multiple shoots simply because a lot of times like shots can look underexposed or way overexposed simply because the screen is not able to display that wide range of colors or wide range of brightness. So a lot of times when I bring the images back onto the computer and have a look at on a proper screen, I feel like, oh wow, it actually captured the wide range of colors and that wide range of brightness. So yeah, or that wide range of contrast. So yeah, don't trust the screen when it comes to judging your exposure that much, but judging your screen, judging your framing, your composition is totally okay with this particular screen, but it is actually detailed enough to actually go through the menu system. And also if you just want to have, yeah, a rough look or rough representation of your images, it's still doable. Just don't critically judge your images based on the screen, and might be wise to actually shoot a couple of times before thinking that you got the shot in the bag. So yeah, definitely learned that the hard way. The autofocusing system in this camera is accurate when it wants to. What I mean by that is once it decides to work, it will actually get it really quickly and very accurately. But this is also something that's very known since, very common since this camera's launch, is the AF system in this camera. Even though in normal perfect daylight condition, it can actually just go out of focus and then confirm that it's in focus. I can confirm that that is an issue with this particular camera regardless of lenses, whether it's the kit lens or the telephoto lens or the prime lens. So yeah, there is that. But talking about lenses, being a camera system that kind of like came down from the Konica Minolta line, you can use, you know, Minolta A mount on this particular camera system, which is a very nice calculated move from Sony to acquire the system, or actually to acquire the rights to keep producing the system under Sony name, because that actually opens up room for experimentation with much older Minolta or Konica Minolta, that's a mouthful, line of lenses. So you can use some of the classic, or actually a lot of the classic lenses from those brands back in that era on this particular mount, which actually, yeah, opens up for a lot of experimentation, getting a lot of budget lenses. So if you're actually looking for a system that you can actually afford in terms of lenses for, then this system is one of the systems to definitely consider. So yeah, there is that. Otherwise, apart from some weird button layout up here, I really like how simple this camera is. I guess it's also because not a lot of features are present with this camera compared to even DSLRs from 10 years ago. Everything is just pretty much at your fingertips. Rarely do I have to go into the menu system and set certain things, simply because everything is already at your fingertips. And this camera, when you do get it straight out of the box, there is this feature when you bring your eye up to the viewfinder, it actually activates the autofocusing system. I actually deactivate that. Well, it got deactivated, which I actually didn't activate it again because it was annoying. But yeah, there is that. The media storage of this camera is actually CF card, which is actually quite nice. I personally prefer CF cards, and I'm glad that they don't take SD cards. I'm very glad. Anyway, moving on. This camera actually has very nice battery, one that I wish the earlier A7 line of cameras would actually take, simply because these are very durable, very power efficient, and also last for a long time. But also, of course, being such a simple camera, this camera doesn't chew through batteries like crazy either, because you can actually have a battery in here last for weeks, and it would still be, you know, half full after like 2 or 3 weeks. So yeah, because it doesn't have to activate the sensor all the time to see the live view, which it does not have, by the way. It doesn't have to activate the sensor the whole time to, you know, power the optical viewfinder, because it's an optical viewfinder, it's not an electronical viewfinder. So yeah, there's that. Oh, and if you're a fan of the optical viewfinder, you will definitely like this one. It's not, like, despite being a budget level DSLR, it's actually a bright enough viewfinder, so that's actually quite nice. And while we're up here, let me just touch upon the flash real quick. The flash is actually quite nice if you're one of those people who like to use this flash, the built-in flash of the camera, to photograph portraits, because being a high-rise flash and a little bit further away from the lens means that physically the chance of getting red eye is much less than those cameras with flashes a little bit lower and closer to the lens. So that's actually quite nice as well. But otherwise, this camera, it's actually a very nice camera to work with, and it's also a very efficient operational wise camera to work with as well. This camera shoots at around 2.5 frames per second, I forgot, up to around 6 frames per second before it actually either stops or slows down to actually write. If you're into burst, I don't recommend that, because the autofocusing system does not keep up at all, even at 2.5 frames per second, which is of course ironic when nowadays you have the A7 IV that you know, shoots at ridiculous frame rates with ridiculous amount of autofocusing points and with really nice and sophisticated autofocusing system. But yeah, they definitely came a long way. But aside from those flaws, I think it's a very nice camera in general to just go out and do some basic street photography, some basic landscape photography, some basic cityscape photography, or any like general disciplinary photography. I think it's a very nice camera. It's the one that, you know, gets the job done with really nice colors, and also it's very simple to operate. It's not fiddly, it's reliable. To a certain extent, if you don't count the autofocusing system. Yeah, there's that. Anyway, now onto the image quality. The image quality out of this camera is really nice. What I mean by that is I love the colors coming out of the CCD sensor, even though I'm a huge fan of CMOS sensors, but the CCD sensor still produces really great image results. And of course, the dynamic range is nowhere near as good as, let's say, even DSLRs from 10, 11, 12 years ago, but it's definitely robust enough to do some basic editing, or maybe just even like slightly above basic or average editing as well. So yeah, just be careful under which lighting you do shoot this shoot with this camera, because the dynamic range isn't really that good, but it's still just good enough for basic use. There is that. But what it will give you is that nostalgic digital look, which is something that a lot of people nowadays are after. And if you're after that, this camera is still a great camera to go for, because it is nice, it is simple, but it's also very affordable, with a lot of affordable lenses out there as well. So there's that. The skin tone is very nice. Be careful of the moire and aliasing, and I would not go anywhere higher than ISO 400, if any, like not even higher than ISO 800. Don't touch ISO 800. It does allow you to go as low as 80, which is great, but still, do not go lower than 200 and do not go higher than 400 if you can avoid going, you know, lower than that or higher than that. Just saying. And then the skin tone is actually quite nice as well out of this camera. So yeah. Oh, and the contrast control, the color reproduction out of this sensor is also quite nice. No complaints there, especially if you're looking for the nostalgic digital look. Yeah, it's definitely something that the earlier A7 line of cameras can take a page from, I would say. But yeah, there's that. Anyway, now into the conclusion. This camera overall is a very nice camera to use. I do highly recommend it if you just want a simple camera to use and explore CCD sensor look with for really low amount of money, because again, I got this camera for 60 euros with 2 lenses, and there were a lot of options, and there are still a lot of options out there around 60, 50 euros or even 70 euros, give or take, depending on the region and the timing you buy this camera. On that you do get like kit lenses or some other prime lenses with it as well, and other accessories with it as well. So yeah, that being said, there are reasons why I don't recommend it as well, is because I got my D200 for like 40 euros many years ago, and nowadays it's still going for around 40-50 euros, the D200. Yes, with lenses it will be slightly more expensive than the A100, but then again, the D200 also has very nice CCD sensors, and it produces slightly better RAW files in my opinion. And also the camera is much more reliable, the screen shows more accurate colors as well, and the autofocusing system is way more reliable than the one you find in the Sony. But of course, different CCD sensors, well, different color profiles in different CCD sensors from different manufacturers will show different kind of look. Even though, you know, they might be from the same company, like the same sensor manufacturing division, but because different companies have different color profiles added to the sensors afterwards, there are different characteristics coming out as the final end result. And you know, if you're looking for the quality, I would definitely point you towards the D200 more, but the A100 is still a nice camera nonetheless if you just want to experiment with the older CCD sensors for a budget, and also just look for a nice camera that does everything genuinely well in the general field of photography disciplinary, or just like to use old cameras in general that is still capable, then this is definitely a camera to consider as well. So yeah, that's it for that. If you have any questions, any suggestions, any recommendations, anything to share, just feel free to comment down in the comment section down below. If you need a free photography guidebook, absolutely for free and beginner, the link is also down in the description section below as well, so as the link to my photography course. Otherwise, I thank you all very much for watching. Stay safe, have fun shooting. Till next time, bye for now.